Yep. 130 grand. Come on. Well, welcome. Tonight, we're going to look at an alternate view. We've had a lot on our liberal view, our more liberal view, and our conservative view. And people were asking, well, where's the libertarian view? So we started before the election, and we got a lot of good feedback, so we're going to continue doing the libertarian view. Now, the only issue is we're going to have a call out. There's got to be more than one libertarian in Milford and one in Hopedale. So if you are a libertarian, call us, come on the show, let people know what the libertarian view is all about. Tonight, our most vocal libertarian. Why don't we start with an introduction?
Hi, I am Mike Soares. I am libertarian with a little L. I'm a Republican, party affiliated, but I have strong libertarian views.
What is a libertarian?
So yeah, we discussed this last time. It's someone that believes in, personal freedom, small government. They're fiscally responsible, but they don't care about what you do in your personal life. What affects you, that doesn't affect me, is your business. So, yeah.
So we're back to the old Weld era, where you have a fiscal conservative who's socially aware.
Yeah, there's part of that. There's a lot of that. I like to say, stay out of my wallet, stay out of my bedroom, and we can be just fine. Stay out of my body. That's the third one,
Stay out of my body?
Stay out of my bedroom, stay out of my body, stay out of my wallet. So what I choose to put in my body or not put in my body it should be your own choice. That's a personal choice, I believe. Obviously, stay out of my wallet. That's in relation to taxes. We should only tax what we need for, the what is constitutionally supposed to be what the role of government is. So we shouldn't have a strong federal government. We should have a strong state government, a strong local government, and a federal government that deals with the overall, national defense and
immigration.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be nice if we could deport people to like Rhode Island, but I don't think that's...
It would be amazing. But yeah, that's the general idea of it. There's always, just like in any other party, there are variations. So a lot of libertarians have a mentality of like a no borders, right? They believe in the free movement of people, and other libertarians believe in a strong border security. So a lot of libertarians support the Trump wall. So there's always
a wall?
There might be. Who knows? If he keeps his promises. It was an interesting election cycle.
So give me your perspective on this election, because first of all, the libertarian ticket had me totally confused.
Yep.
Somehow, Weld being the vice president seemed kind of retro to me.
So it did seem like Weld was the more rehearsed candidate, the more well-spoken candidate. And maybe we could have done a little better with Weld on the top of the ticket. However, he was a hard VP. It was very close call of not having him as a VP at all, because to some, he's not libertarian enough.
In what way? Help me
Well,
understand that.
so libertarians are big Second Amendment people, and a lot of people don't believe that Weld respects gun rights. So he kind of takes the soft Republican view of, oh yeah, I have no problem with people hunting and sporting, but no one should have, an assault weapon.
But aren't they all assault weapons?
They're all assault weapons if you choose to assault
I'm
somebody with
sorry.
it.
You sit there and, I don't want to, guns don't kill people, people kill women.
Yeah.
You point any weapon at me, I'm going to feel that, a 12-gauge Mossberg from, way back when, to me that looks like an assault weapon if you pull the trigger.
Absolutely. And it's funny because a lot of people don't understand that because assault weapon is, it's a made-up term. It's a legal term that they created a definition for, and a lot of pistols and shotguns fall under that category of assault weapon. So it's very difficult to understand what exactly an assault weapon really truly is.
But we do draw a line. I can go out and go through the check and whatever and get a permit to own a shotgun, a rifle.
Correct.
If I would like to own a pistol, I need to get a different permit.
In this state, yes, you do.
And if I want to own a machine gun, I need a different.
You'll never get a machine gun permit.
But they exist.
They do exist.
My neighbor had one.
They do exist, and they're very difficult to get.
Well, I understand, but we already draw a line to say.
Yes, and we do have we have a general FID, which is long guns only, and then you have your license to carry, abbreviated as LTC, and that basically gives you the right to carry pistols and long guns, with the caveat, obviously, that everything has to be either pump action, revolver, or semi-automatic. So no fully automatics. So if you want fully automatic, then you have to go through that very long, expensive process.
But now, some of this stuff I don't understand. When people say I shouldn't have to go through a background check or a 3-day background check, I don't get it. I have no problem. If I want to buy a gun this Saturday, I can start on Tuesday, do my paperwork.
Well, to get your license, you went through all that. You went through fingerprinting. You went through an interview process. You went through training. So as far as states that have a licensing procedure, it would make sense for efficiency to not have to have a background check because you already had that done.
When I get my FID card.
You already had your background check.
Yeah, originally I don't know what they did when I was a kid, but when I came back from Paris, back to Milford, I went downtown and now I had to put my fingers for the fingerprinting and get the little yellow card and all that good stuff. Didn't seem very intrusive.
No, and there's different like I said, different levels of libertarians, and I'm one of those that believe that, you can screen people, right? I'm okay with that, but once I've been screened, I feel like you've deemed me a responsible, law-abiding citizen, and I shouldn't be judged by the decisions I make by industry standard firearms on the market that I choose to purchase.
So what is the issue that you don't need a 50-round, a Tommy gun used to come with the big round 45 caliber, 50 bullets.
Those are fully automatic, but they have, the most popular and probably the most controversial platform is the AR-15, which is a semi-automatic version of the M16. A lot of people don't understand. They may look similar, but they operate completely differently. They have a similar caliber round, but essentially one is fully automatic. You hold down the trigger, it fires multiple rounds very quickly. The other one is one shot per trigger pull. So yeah, there's...
But now why do I need a fully automatic? I like firing AK-47, the real one.
Yeah.
It's a fun toy.
Sure.
Okay, and I've had the opportunity to fire them, and I learned quickly why there was a 3-round burst.
Yeah.
Because by round 4 or 5, I'm shooting crows.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, maybe it was just me, but, you know, that thing would lift up.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there saying,
Not for novices.
well, yeah. I mean, so why do I need, I don't really need one.
Well,
I just want one.
But see, a lot of the issue is, we'll argue about fully automatics. Do we need them, want them, whatever? But then they go after the semi-autos, and that's kind of part of the issue there. You know, they say, oh, no one needs an M16 fully automatic weapon, but then they go after the AR-15, which is a semi-automatic platform.
Well, nobody needs a semi. Nobody needs a pump
pump.
action. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you could sit there and say, oh, if you want to go hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the reasons I stopped hunting is we'd go up to Vermont or northern New Hampshire, and I had 6 rounds. I don't think I ever fired.
More than 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, maybe 2 to sight it in.
Yeah.
And then when did you ever need more than 4 rounds?
Yeah, but again, everyone's different. Some people like to go sport shooting, you know, and that's.
Well, no, my neighbor used to go out to the local gun range. We'd take some cigars.
Mm-hmm.
He'd bring 3 or 4 of his toys.
Yep.
Something ridiculous, like we'd go out and buy 300-400 rounds, and
Oh, perfect.
you just sat there
And a lot of people
enjoyed.
want to, you know, a lot of people want to put limits on the rounds of ammunition you can have, like, you know, no more than 20 a month or something ridiculous like that. I've heard proposals like that.
Now, I didn't think we were dangerous, except for if there was a squirrel on the target that I wasn't aiming at, the squirrel could be in trouble
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
hitting the target was always a challenge.
Well, as long
But-
as you have your hunting license, don't forget.
There you go. But, you know, I mean, part of it I don't buy because, I'm sorry, when I want to buy something, if I have to wait 3 whole days, okay. And it's only once in my lifetime,
Well,
right?
again, Massachusetts actually doesn't have a waiting period
Oh.
to purchase. All it does, there's a long process to get licensed. Once you're licensed, you can go to any firearm dealership in the state and purchase your firearm on the spot. Because again, you've already been checked, but you do have to go through a background check because it's required by the federal government, even though you've already had that
But
process
again,
to get your license.
I mean, I liken it to if I came to you and said, I think I need to check you for heroin use. And here's the benefit. I'll give you $100,000 if you pass the test.
Okay.
What would be your hesitance? Whatever drug you want, except for alkaloids. Don't come after my caffeine because I'm in trouble. But if you said there's a benefit,
Yeah.
I'd say, okay, I'll pee in a cup because I'm not worried. Why would I worry about a background check?
You wouldn't. You wouldn't. But, I mean, there are people who do worry about, you know, the government keeping lists of buyers, right, for long term. They're always afraid of confiscation. There's a certain sect of the population who believe that registrations leads to confiscation.
So I'll move to Idaho where the feds can't get me. Okay. No, I mean, I've heard it. I'm trying to
Yeah.
understand because I'm one of those closet gun owners.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a whole bunch, and when we moved to Paris, my darling bride made me sell them all, except for my Ithaca Featherlight. That was my first, my little 20 gauge. I just can't part with it.
Yeah, and most background checks states don't charge you for, but there are. So one of my main oppositions to the universal background check, where if I were to even inherit the guns of my father, for instance, I'd have to go through a background check and pay a $35 fee per firearm. That is what they passed in Washington. So that's the kind of
So it's just another tax.
Exactly. So it all starts with good intentions, and then it leads to
'Cause
you
I was
know,
gonna say, wait a minute.
overreach of government.
If you're validating my ability to be responsible with a firearm or a bow and arrows count, I guess not.
No,
Okay.
that's
But
archery.
some of these bow and arrows can do as much damage.
Absolutely.
You know,
Crossbow can do a lot of damage.
Yes, my daughter's father-in-law what he can do with a bow will rival anybody with a rifle.
Absolutely.
So, okay. But you know, when I look at it and I sit there and say, once you validated that I can be responsible, why do you really care?
Yeah,
What-
and again, I'm with you. Why do you care once I've proven to be a good citizen, what I have locked in my armory closet?
And now, if I'm a criminal and I'm going to go rob somewhere,
Yeah.
I probably won't apply for a background check, right?
No, you'll purchase it off the black market. There's a very, as we know, anything that's illegal has a very healthy black market. Whether it be drugs, guns, prostitution, whatever it is, there's a black market for it. So,
So, you know, that's where I get stumped, because I sit there and say, you can pass all the laws you want for the law-abiding citizens.
yeah,
You're just annoying me, because the people who are going to go rob a bank probably don't care very much whether they have a legal gun or not.
correct. Yeah.
So then you get into the whole, what line do you draw? I mean, obviously, when you get somebody walking into a school and shooting 100 rounds at kids, what I don't understand is, except for 3-4 seconds to flip a clip, having a smaller clip be the only legal ones, I don't understand how that stops the animal.
No.
Who's going to go?
It-
They can buy a big clip on the black market.
They could. I know people who have. I won't name names, but they are very readily available. You got to remember too. It's when you have something that goes state by state by state, it is so easy to go to another state and purchase accessories, not firearms, but accessories.
But now, legally,
No.
I live in Massachusetts.
Correct.
If I go to a neighboring state,
Mm-hmm.
neighboring can be all the way to Wyoming, I don't care, and I buy a 50-round clip or something that is not legal in Massachusetts,
Yeah.
aren't I breaking the law if I bring it in?
Yes.
Ah.
But there's no security check at the border.
Right.
So, and nor do I think there should be. So.
So the whole gun thing, is it a bit paranoia that we're going, on one side you want to take away all guns?
I think there's a lot of paranoia on both sides of the aisle.
And on the other side you're saying, if
and
I
you
slip
have-
a little,
I think you have about 70%, maybe more, of the population kind of in the middle of the road where you and I are. Let's do some basic
I'm
background
sorry,
checks.
if you have mental problems,
Yeah.
we should take care of you as a society, but allowing you to carry a semi-automatic or
That's a
any-
whole nother issue we need a lot more than an hour to talk about.
But no, I could understand somebody saying, if you're diagnosed
Yeah.
with real mental issues,
Yep.
yeah, maybe, I don't care what gun it is, maybe I don't want you carrying a lethal weapon.
I don't want you carrying anything.
Right.
I don't care if it's, a pump
A
action,
big knife,
single shot,
right.
break action shotgun. I don't want you carrying it.
I mean, this whole idea that if I'm the person that you shoot with one bullet, I really probably don't care about the second, third, and fourth.
Exactly.
So, now we look at the whole drug issue.
Yeah.
The
So
good Dr. Johnson had me totally confused when he started saying heroin should be legal and
Well, so cannabis now is legal here in the state of Massachusetts. Cannabis being the proper name for marijuana. People have recognized that cannabis prohibition doesn't work, and that honestly, there's very little benefit to prohibiting cannabis for personal use. We all agree that no one should get behind the wheel if they are
but that's the same as alcohol.
exactly. So no one wants you to get behind the wheel if you are under the
I mean, I
influence
can
of
have
anything.
a Drambuie or 2 or 3 in my house,
Yeah.
and as long as I don't leave the dining room,
Correct.
stay away from me.
Yeah. And if you're on your own property, you're not bothering anyone else.
I'm not endangering anybody.
Maybe yourself, but that's it. That's your choice.
As I said, I don't leave the living room because I'll probably fall down and hurt myself.
Yeah.
But you think of, let me put, before I make an opinion, what do you think the biggest benefit to making marijuana legal is?
Well, one of the benefits is you can set limits. Now, I know the current law does not set any potency limits, but because it's legal, you can set those potency limits. You can also regulate the growers, so you can make sure that you have a clean product, because there's always the
Malathion, parathion, you have to worry about what they're using.
yeah, God knows what they could lace it with. If it's legal, you can tax it, which is a huge benefit to
See, now you're
know.
on to what I'm thinking. You know what I think one of the biggest benefits is?
tax. Tax
No,
revenue.
well, it's not even tax. You take the money away from the cartels.
And you know what? A lot of people talk about heroin and cocaine being the big money, and it is big money, but cannabis is the bread and butter. That
Yeah,
is,
but you know, to me, there's a very big difference. I haven't seen enough data on THC consumption that worries me terribly medically.
yeah. So there have been cases of people getting sick. You can get sick if you smoke too much.
But you can't get sick if you drink too much.
You can exactly. I haven't seen any credible evidence of anyone overdosing to the point that, you know.
Or long-term care, because when I think about it, I have no issue with insurance charging smokers more. I mean, I
Yeah.
like a cigar.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of data showing if you smoke,
Yeah.
now, because
Yeah.
of my family, I'm only getting 1 1/4, so it doesn't count, but if I'm a heavy smoker, I'm gonna put a heavier burden, eventually, on the medical system.
Right. Most of that is because smoking cigarettes will lead to cancer.
But that leads to medical treatment, that leads to,
Very expensive medical treatment.
Right.
And I haven't seen any evidence of cannabis smoking leading to cancer. Now, I have seen cannabis use leading to higher rates of bronchitis.
you're smoking.
Yeah, you're smoking.
But if you said I eat brownies,
But there are many other ways to consume THC. You can, I don't want to tell anybody how to use it, but you can take it, you
No,
can
but I guess
ingest it, you can smoke
there's
it.
the issue I have, Mike, is if you're doing cocaine,
Yeah.
heroin, I mean, all of these other oxy, you really are setting yourself up for major medical that I have to pay for.
Well, that is a good argument. So I would, if I had the magic wand, I would legalize all drugs. I really would. And part of that, again, because you can regulate it, you can control it, you can limit it. You could say, okay, here's your dose for the week.
Now, seriously,
Seriously,
you're going to
I
tell
know
me
you're-
there's
I know
a
you think I'm
safe dose
crazy.
of heroin.
I didn't say there was a safe dose of heroin. What I said was you can limit it. You can make it less of a risk.
Yeah, but people turn into nanimals. They can't.
They're going to anyway. It is the cheapest form
Sure.
of drug use. You know, people go to heroin because they get addicted to painkillers, and then they can't get.
I mean, the saddest thing is we've had these discussions with Sheriff Lou, who runs the Worcester Jail, with Tom O'Loughlin. When we grew up, the image you had of a druggie was a dark alley in the big city, you know, in this creepy shape. Now all of a sudden you find out it's your neighbor's son,
Yeah.
kid you grew up with, because they blew their
athletes.
knee. Athletes. They hurt their knee, they got these oxys. And then at $1 a mig on the street, that's, 80 migs per tablet.
A lot of that is because it's a legal, regulated drug that is very hard to get. And I would love to do the same to heroin and cocaine. When you have legal channels, you make and regulate it, it becomes harder to get.
I understand, but I don't see how allowing you to do any
We
cocaine
absolutely need to discourage it by
Yeah.
all means. Just like smoking, we discourage it as much as possible. We take it.
Kind of. I mean, let's face it, society has done that because it used to be you had to ask for a no smoking room in a hotel. I don't know of any hotels that have smoking rooms that I ever stay in anymore.
I haven't seen one in quite a while.
Buildings,
Yeah.
I don't see anybody.
Yeah, so it becomes very difficult to become a smoker, and you kind of get shunned by society. You know, oh, you want to smoke? Go outside.
Well, yeah, this morning I'm looking out my window in my office, and there's 3 people in the sleet and freezing rain,
Yeah,
trying to add some nicotine to their
right.
metabolism.
So we could do the same with other drugs where we control it, we regulate it, we make it difficult to get, and we discourage its use.
I gotta tell you, I don't understand.
I know we'll
There's an
disagree on
emotional
this.
thing.
I
Yeah,
know.
we have to, because when I see somebody, they take the oxy, they move over to heroin. Now it's $15 a shot,
Yeah,
or whatever they call it, a bag,
a hit.
a hit. I don't see them stopping. I don't see them maintaining
Well,
a
I'll tell
useful
you.
role in society.
I'll tell you that what we're doing now isn't working. So at the very least, we should try something different.
Follow Nancy. Just say no.
I agree.
Yeah,
Just
let's
say
see,
no.
How many years ago was that? And
Always discourage it. I absolutely.
But it doesn't work. And the war on drugs. I mean, you go all the way back to the Nixonian era. Richard Milhous himself tried from there on up.
Yeah, but again, I mean, by making it illegal, all you're doing is funding criminal activity. Because that's the only source to go and get whatever it is you want.
Now you look at societies like the Pippa fiends. When you look at the Filipino reaction, they're taking a whole different tact.
Oh yeah, they are.
That's a scary movie.
Yeah, and it's interesting because before Obama left office, they were really butting heads. Calling each other names, the Philippine president and President Obama, and
yeah, he questioned whether Obama's parents were married.
He said a lot worse than
I don't
that.
want to use the word,
He
but
said a lot
what he
worse
called
than
them
that.
was the outcome of 2 non-married people.
Yeah, something along those lines. Not as polite
But
as you put it.
You think about people like that, and I sit there and say, the leader of the country, he definitely does not suffer from the illness of intelligence. Because how can you be proud that you walked around and shot people?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? That's the ultra extreme. Okay, I'm going to stop drug use.
Yeah.
How? I will eradicate.
You'll kill all the drug users. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to give out free syringes. Oh, they're laced with arsenic. Excuse me?
Yeah. I mean, and that's one extreme. We have.
It is totally nuts.
You have extremes on both sides.
But I look at making it totally legal.
You think that's the other extreme?
I think the pendulum on the other side. I don't understand how it would work.
Yeah, it would. It's definitely something the U.S. has never done. It's totally different.
But granted, if you asked me 30 years ago, 40, when the Worcester Foundation was doing experiments proving how harmful marijuana was, that it would ever be legal, in my little school of Holy Cross, I would have thought you were smoking too much.
Yeah, and that's always the joke around town now, right? Like, oh, it's legal now. Are you smoking too much, or
Right.
you say something silly?
Were you born this way?
Yeah. But it's interesting because at least one mayor has suggested all the old abandoned mills that we have all over Massachusetts, let's turn them into growing facilities. They're empty, they're not doing anything, let's make them productive again. So that would be the Holyoke mayor.
Okay, I thought you would say let's round up all the drug people and put them in those mills.
No. He was suggesting turning the mills into growing facilities for marijuana.
Well, as I say, the one benefit that nobody can argue is it's like the lottery. When you think about, we got a lot of taxes out of it.
Yeah.
But all we were doing is diverting the underground numbers racket into voluntary taxation.
Exactly.
I mean, it's amazing. If I walk up to you and say, would you participate in voluntary taxation, you'd say, go away.
And and if you're a true libertarian, you would say the only taxation that is credible is voluntary taxation.
Which is a lottery ticket.
A lottery ticket, or a tax on consumption.
A tax on consumption.
Yes. That is an affirmative action you take, right? You purchase something.
Now, a lot of the liberals will tell you that's not fair because you're taxing gasoline.
Yeah.
okay? I make $100 a year, you make $1,000. We pay the same $2.50 per gallon of gas. A third to a half of that is tax.
Yeah.
Well, me with my measly little salary, you with your great big salary, we're paying the same. How is that fair?
They use that argument just to implement both taxes to say, it's only fair
Right.
that we have a progressive income tax to even out the sales, consumption tax that we already have. They never suggest we should take the consumption tax away. And, they just say we should have a more aggressive, progressive
Well,
tax.
if you remember back Stephen Forbes, when he said he thought a flat tax is the only fair tax.
Yeah, and I like the idea of a flat tax with a large deduction. So, basically what I would mean, your first, whatever the poverty level is, if it's 20,000, 22,000, I think you should be able to earn that money tax-free. Everything after that should be a flat tax. That is my own personal
But when they
opinion.
tried that, anybody, if I remember right, anybody making more than 100 grand a year got a whopping tax cut. And anybody making less than 100 grand a year.
Well, I mean, I think that's arguable because a lot of people, like billionaires who happen to be president, have a lot of deductions, and then they end up paying a lower tax than a lot of lower to middle income people. So how is that fair? To have a
See,
system that has such a high rate
But
of
when you say
tax
they
that
pay
you
lower-
need so much deductions to balance it.
I have a hard time, I really do, looking at somebody, the argument was, well, this guy made $100 million or she made $100 million bucks and she only paid $10 million in taxes.
Yeah.
She's not paying her fair share. I don't have a lot of friends who pay $10 million in taxes.
Well, because their whole thing is it should be based on your income. It should be a percentage of your income. Remember, you can only make so much because of society. You make as much money as you do because of your financial status in the economic world. So in other words, if there weren't roads, there weren't bridges, there weren't employees around for you to have that company, you wouldn't have that income, so you should be paying back as much as possible.
Okay, so where do you stop? See, what I love about the argument is if I make 50 grand a year, everybody 51 grand and above should be paying a lot more tax.
Right.
If I make 100 grand a year, 101,000 and above should be paying a lot of tax.
Yeah.
Where do you stop? Where do you draw the line saying, I think you only should make so much money?
Well, and that's what I love about the flat taxes because you never limit how much you can make.
Right.
You simply, based on what you do make, you pay a tax on that
That'd be like Social
percentage.
Security. I don't file for it. I don't do anything. All I know is 7% just disappears.
Right. And
And
it's
then-
flat.
Yeah, just 7%.
It's the one and only tax that it doesn't care if you make $1 or make
Up
100
to
million.
whatever the cutoff, 150, 180, whatever it is.
Right. It's a flat tax up to a maximum, which there are a lot of people who say, well, why is there a maximum? It's that becomes now a
Well, there's a
regressive
maximum
tax.
because there's a maximum they'll pay out,
Right.
right? The most you're going to get is 35,000 or something a year when you retire. So the logic is, okay, don't keep taking. But I have a hard time looking at somebody saying, you only paid 10 or 20 million in tax. You didn't pay your fair share.
Yeah.
I've never paid 20 million a year in tax.
But you also never made 100 million a year. Oh, I don't think so.
But what does that have to do with henna color, right? I mean, I didn't make 100 million.
Yeah.
Take Milford. Okay, if you have a home that's larger,
Yes.
then the average house is what, 4,800 a year
Something
in tax?
close to that. Yeah, about
Okay.
5,000 a year.
So let's say 5,000 round number. Okay, there are houses in Milford paying 12.
Yep.
Now, the logic on you paying 12 and me paying 5. Do you use, let's see, 62% of our budget is school. Do you use more school than I do?
No.
Oh. The next biggest one is police. Do you use more? No. Fire? I mean, I go down the highway.
It's, well, that's why we have politicians. They decide based on, how they get elected, how the best method to calculate tax. So, as a libertarian, I don't agree with the property tax. I prefer a consumption based tax or a flat.
Like a resident, what you're saying is a resident tax. If you live in Milford, you pay.
No, I'm talking about a consumption tax on goods that you purchase, and or a flat tax on your income, minus the poverty deduction.
How would you deal with this real estate taxes?
Well, I think it should be, so the state collects taxes, and then based on.
So the state would collect 7% instead of 5%, and you get so much back.
And then the state would have some type of formula that would fund the towns.
But that's where, okay, the minute you do that, okay, Milford school system, they have this 32 character, factoring system that says, okay, the average that you should spend is 10, round numbers, 10 grand on a high school kid. Milford, with all these factors, you can afford to spend 5,700. So of all the taxes we collect, we're only going to give you 4,300 back.
Right, and that's part of that's a.
But then they go to Springfield, they say, oh, remember the Springfield government saying we can't afford the government we want?
Sure.
I mean, I love that. I can't afford the car I want. Will you give me one for free?
Right.
But they get 75% of their government paid for.
And that's a flaw of our current system, So it all depends on how you make that calculation. I would, again, this is my own personal view. I would make it based on capita. You have so many residents.
Yes.
You should get so much of
Well,
the percentage of tax money that
that's
the state
how
gets.
they say, okay, you've got so many students.
Yep.
We're going to give you, but then they factor it.
Well.
We're going to take your 1,200 high school students times round number 10 grand.
Yeah.
Here's your money. Okay. Oh, but wait a minute. You can afford to pay more than these other cities.
But when they say you can afford to pay more, what they're basing that off of is the current property tax system. So Milford, being a suburban town, has a higher tax per property than, say, a city like Springfield, where a lot of people live in, one-bedroom apartments and stuff like that, and that gets taxed at a much lower rate per capita. Again, what I would propose, if I had my magic wand, is a redistribution based on capita with no adjustments. So, I mean,
But
there's
then
a lot.
what do you say? I mean, if you remember
But I also believe in a smaller government, all
over,
top down, so.
you got Mitt saying, wait a minute, 47% back then of people don't pay any federal tax.
Yep.
On the surface, that doesn't feel right. That half of us are paying the federal tax, the other half aren't.
Right. Yep.
But then what do you say to somebody who says, but what am I going to do with the 17% poor, 20% poor people?
Well, and then that's one of the benefits of having a mixed tax based on your consumption and income. Because no matter how poor you are, you're always going to consume stuff. You're going to consume food, beverage.
But that's their argument. The consumption is wrong because it costs you more to pay the gas tax or me more than you.
But that's where the income tax comes in, and it's based on your income. So it's a balancing act. Yeah. No one's ever going to be happy. I mean, let's and if everybody, I think we've talked about this before, where if you ask someone you're negotiating, are you happy? No. Are you? No. You did good. You did good. You found a good middle ground. So speaking of, we could the town of Milford just came to a price with the Milford Water Company that was published on the Milford Daily News, and it's something that was negotiated, and I don't know if either party is happy with that number, and so it might be the right number.
But as a libertarian, how do you feel about the town taking over a private company?
So I always prefer private ownership to government ownership, except in cases of monopolies. So if everyone needs water.
Yes.
If your water is controlled by a private entity that has no incentive to have lower costs because it's regulated by the state, and how much money they can make is based on how much they spend.
But they get an uplift on how much they spend, so I'd argue there's an incentive to not be frugal.
Exactly. And
I'm getting 10%
It's-
profit
it
on every dollar I
makes them-
spend.
Exactly. It makes more sense as a utility, a regulated utility, to splurge on costs because their allowable profit is based on their
But
costs.
see, now I'm torn because as a conservative, and I know Uncle Ed and the conservative view keep saying I'm too much of a liberal, but in general, I'd rather not increase government.
Yeah,
But when I read the report saying a utility, a monopoly is being mismanaged, now in a private company or a public company, I throw out the management,
yeah.
bring in new management.
Or you stop using those the
But
services.
let's say I
Yeah.
can't. You know, I'll throw out the management as a stockholder, bring in new management, clean up the mess.
Yeah.
Isn't that what the town's doing?
Sort of. I mean, so we don't exactly know what the picture is going to look like, at least the first couple of years, as far, town council said this and when he was quoted in the news, we don't even know where the light switch is off.
Right.
So the same management is going to be there once we purchase it, at least at first, because they need to show us the bells and whistles and how to run this thing.
You know, when I hear about, well, there'll be dangers because there could be things that, the pipes could burst. And
Yeah.
like, well, wait a minute.
They could burst now, and then they can, on top of the cost of replacing it,
They put their profit.
they put their profit in there. And,
So-
and that's why, even though as a libertarian I prefer private ownership, in this circumstance, it makes sense
It seems to make sense.
to have a government control of a monopolistic company that you have no other choice.
Right.
You can't choose.
I'm not going to use water.
You can't. Well, exactly. You're going to dig a well in the middle of downtown Milford? Probably not. So.
Yeah, but to dig a well deep enough to do my sprinkler system, I think I'd have to go to Shanghai.
So, I mean, really the only choice you have is to purchase water from
Right.
the Milford Water Company. At least with cable operators, right? It's also a monopoly, but you can choose not to.
But wait a minute, you have
These-
Verizon, you have Comcast, at least you have competition.
You have some competition. It hasn't always been like that. It used to be just a cable company. You had one choice for telephone, one choice
Right.
for cable. Now you have a handful of choices. But still, if you choose not to subscribe to any of those services, you don't have to. It's not a need like water is.
Right. And you have an alternative.
Yeah.
Now, last show we talked about Hillary versus Donald.
Oh yes.
Okay. What's your reaction to some of the?
I was shocked. Absolutely shocked. I still remember I was watching, the results come in on TV, and I ended up falling asleep just before midnight with the TV on. And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning when I was a little drowsy, and I started hearing Donald wins Wisconsin, of all states. Wasn't even in play, according to the media.
No, part of the blue wall.
Part of it was so blue, it wasn't even, neither candidate campaigned there. There was that blue. It just didn't make sense. And I thought for sure that I was dreaming.
But now, the part that I was not an Obama fan, but the day he was elected president of the United States, I had to pray for his success.
Okay.
You know, to me, it's like being in a rowboat. I don't like you, so I'm going to drill a hole on my side. You know, we're both in this rowboat, and I'm going to sink my side just to sink you.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I mean, I hear these people say he's not my president.
Yeah.
Well-
Well, you know, it was a very emotional election cycle. You know, it was a nasty
Yeah.
election cycle, and you know, a lot of times it's hard to accept the results.
It's hard to accept that I'm not young, thin, and have hair. But I look in the mirror, there's a fat old bald man looking back at me.
Exactly.
Whether I want to accept it or not, there's reality.
Yeah, and you're right. That is reality. He is our president, like it or not. He is the legitimate
And
president. He
The part
won
I
based on
don't
the
get
rules.
is if I come in and urinate on your sneakers, then I want you to behave. Doesn't seem like I'm giving you much incentive. You know, these people who are absolutely against him, well, you got him for 4 years. Wouldn't it make more sense to try and work with him and his administration to moderate the claims? Or
Well, at least the left claims that he's so radical that the only right thing to do is to obstruct as much as possible. And you know what? I mean, hey, they're elected representatives. If that's what they want to do, if they believe that's a winning strategy to get reelected, so be it. I mean, but as of right now, Republicans have the House, the Senate, and the White House. So,
But you know, you turn around, and one of the things I was not pleased with was it seemed to almost be personal, that whatever Obama wanted, the Republicans obstructed, just on general principles.
I don't know about that. I feel like a lot of times, I mean, I think Obama was a master of the media.
Yes.
He was able to steer the message his way. When years ago, when the Republicans obstructed the budget, you know, and the government shut down, well, the truth was the Republicans passed 4 or 5 different budgets that the Democrats refused
To accept.
to accept. So why, you know, it takes 2 to tango.
But
Why
see, why
is
is
it
it
the
any different?
Why is it any different, right?
But that's what bothers me. I was really hoping that we wouldn't have this miserable gridlock. You know, when you look at, okay, so
Well, we shouldn't have much gridlock because again, majority in the House, Senate, and White House. So this is back going to 2009 where the Democrats had the same thing. That was how they pushed Obamacare through, was because they had.
but then why isn't it better to work and try and temper what they're doing?
Well, you know, that's you'll have to ask them what their strategy is.
You know, I'm hoping that a lot of the silliness, you know, you heard remove Obamacare. We're just going to get rid of it. Okay, well, you've had 7 years and 40 odd votes to kill it. What's the plan?
Right. Well, I think if they were smart, they would say, okay, let's pass a bill to appease the base that says we will repeal Obamacare, but make it effective sometime next year.
Or make it effective when you have a plan.
Or that, but I would like a deadline, so that way there's some pressure to come, you know, say March 1st, 2018, Obamacare is repealed. You have over a year, both Republicans and Democrats, that come up with a plan that
But then
works.
what happens on March 19th when you don't have a plan?
And then it's election season, and you boot those guys out.
Okay, because I mean, there's my problem is I'm sitting there saying, wait a minute, come up with, now, I'll give Trump credit. It was, I'm going to destroy everything Obama did. Then he came back and said, well, you know, parts of that Obamacare thing,
Makes
we,
sense.
we don't want to remove. You know,
Yeah.
the pre-existing condition. Okay, so at least I felt better that maybe reality is setting in.
But until you have a comprehensive plan, I mean, you can't just pull bits and pieces of a plan and say, yeah, this will do. It won't work.
No, but see, that's my point. I would have a lot more respect for the group if they had a replace and
A repeal and replace.
replace and repeal. I don't want to repeal and replace.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I
Okay.
want to have a plan that says, on March 18th,
Yeah.
Plan B goes into effect. We've agreed,
Okay.
whatever. That's our best plan.
Yeah.
Just throwing a hand grenade in the room?
But a lot of times politics, the way it works most efficiently is when there's a deadline.
I'm
How
not
many
saying-
times has a budget meeting or a session gone to midnight or 11:59 because it was due at
Make
midnight?
the deadline that we're passing this motion, it expires on March 18th. So if you don't have a better plan by then, you start again. But, and I think about some of the stuff he's done. And, people have obviously said Obama lived by the pen, by doing all the executive actions
phone
and
and pen,
ignoring.
yeah.
Well, there is an eraser for whatever ink you use.
Right, and you know what? Trump's, as of this recording, Trump's been in office, 4 days? And he has written quite a bunch of reversals on those executive orders. I mean, right now, we're talking about the EPA is in question as a department.
Yeah, and see, that to me is too extreme. You can't blow it away. I mean,
He has frozen everything. He
no,
said,
I understand.
which I find pretty interesting for Milford because, as you know, the EPA has some mandates in Milford that it's going to cost the town millions of dollars.
Millions.
Millions.
Millions I'd be happy with.
Tens of millions.
Yeah, they were talking 60,
Yeah.
70 million. That's almost that's 70% of our entire
So
operating
with
budget.
Trump in office, it creates an interesting possibility that Milford could save a whole lot of money.
But see, there again, forget Democrat, Republican. You had people like John Fernandez who said, wait a minute, the way to fix this is to catch it upstream. Don't let fertilizer be used with phosphates.
Right.
Don't chase it once it's spread out, cost you 100 times more. And the market, the largest producer of fertilizer, said we're not doing phosphates anymore. That made sense to me.
That does make sense. But you also have to remember, phosphates isn't the EPA's only
Right.
target. And, they're trying to take a holistic approach with stormwater, which is basically, a tax on all pavements and roofs, essentially, where everything that falls on the roads, on your driveways,
It's just a
needs
tax.
to be drained into a treatment facility before it gets.
If you remember the fellow who came before the Milford Finance Committee and he said, you can fund this without a tax. And we said, really? He said, yes, we can have these fees. And I was on camera when I said, wait a minute. If I feel your hand going in my pocket and extracting my money, you can call it a tax, you can call it a fee, you can call it a quack duck. It's a tax.
Yeah, I mean, how does the line go if, a fine is a tax for doing wrong, a tax is a fine, or a tax is a fine for doing well?
Yeah.
And
But that was the whole idea when you start thinking through it. I like what I'm hearing, companies saying they're going to bring jobs back to the U.S. They're not going to build plants in other countries.
yeah, that's been an interesting movement since Trump's been elected, where you had quite a few big announcements of.
And do I believe that he can target those companies? And no.
I'm not a big fan of picking winners and losers.
Right.
So
don't
if you
think
want
he
to
has-
have a broad policy, and that has the net effect of companies wanting to come here, I love
Fix the core
I
problem.
love the idea of eliminating the corporate tax, because I think corporations aren't people, and therefore they shouldn't pay taxes. The people who are behind those corporations, the CEOs
Well-
and the shareholders who benefit from the
I don't
income.
know if I'd go as far as no corporate tax, but a competitive corporate tax.
I would think the most competitive
Well,
corporate
zero.
tax is zero, and that will bring so many jobs, or so many companies to move over here, because you wouldn't have that double
But
taxation
then you're
effect.
going to nail my income.
How?
Where do you make up the money? Do you really believe there's the
corporate
political will
income,
to cut?
the corporate income tax is such a small piece of the federal government's revenue that you can do it out of making government more efficient. It's
Now, I've always said we have not had a tax problem for a long time.
Yeah.
We have a spending problem.
Yeah.
That's the real issue. I
Yeah.
mean, even on the FinCom level, how many arguments we had about the way to control the tax rate? Don't spend.
Don't spend it. Yeah.
You know.
So interesting enough, Trump has been kind of non-traditional as a Republican by going after defense contractors. You know, he was going after
The F-35.
Lockheed Martin for the F-35. He was going after Boeing for Air Force One.
Air Force One.
So he is hitting everybody hard, and you know it's.
And you know, I'm happy.
Yeah.
If he goes after corporations or tells the Pentagon they got to cut better deals, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I don't either.
I mean, I laugh when he say, I'll target these products. Well, you can't.
No, I don't want him targeting, and I actually don't like him saying, oh, you know, Air Force One, you know, it's too expensive.
Well, no, but I'm saying if you make your air conditioners in Mexico, I'm going to put a tariff.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Even maybe you can, but
Not unless you do it to all air conditioners.
Right.
You know?
You're not going to go after the one company who
Right.
makes their air conditioners there and decide, okay, I'm going to nail you.
Yeah. But, you know, and it'd be interesting if he tries to do something where he does like an income or a tariff based on country of origin. And I think that's what his eventual plan to get Mexico to pay for the wall
Yes.
is probably going to be tariffs. You know, he threw away the TPP, just out the window, gone. You know, executive order. He is not.
Well, executive order brought it in.
Exactly, and he's not. He refuses to sign it. So.
And I did
Now
get a
there's
kick
a
out
question
of Obama
of-
saying, if I really feel strongly for something, I'll come back. Well, it may take a few years for people to forget, because if you look at the election results, you didn't carry a lot of weight with your views.
No, well, and you know, Democrats are going to have to do some soul searching because they lost. They're losing. It's if you look at the states, they're losing a certain demographic that they've had for years, and that's laborers, blue collar union workers. That is the biggest reason they lost the blue wall is because Trump argued jobs, jobs,
Well,
jobs.
but you sat there and Obama argued your life is better.
Yeah.
And people said, no. Yes, it is. No.
Yeah. Well, I've actually had this argument with family members in the dinner table, right? You can use alternate facts to make your argument. And
That's like when people say you're being economical with the truth,
yes.
or these people don't suffer from the disease of intelligence.
So, and I'll give you an example. You can point at one statistic. Unemployment rate's at 4.7%. That's a really good low unemployment number.
Unless I'm the unemployed.
Or you can look at a different statistic, which is participation rate. We have fewer workers today in the U.S. than back in 2000, even though we have 40 million people more in this country. So that's the same amount of workers supporting 40 million more people in this country that aren't working. So based on that statistic, you would say the economy is doing very poorly. So that's what I mean, that you can use alternate facts to make a different argument.
What can I say? It's always fun to listen to the different views. We do have a call out. We want to find that second Libertarian or third in Milford that's willing to come on camera and share their views. We'll talk again in a couple months and see how the good Dr. Trump is done. And hopefully he's being very successful. Because I'm serious in saying, whether you liked him or hated him, he is our president. We got to hope that he does well so the country does well. To our 6 loyal viewers, plus a Libertarian, and there may be 2 out there that we don't know about, may God bless. May tomorrow be a better night than tonight. Thank you.
Not too long since I've been home. option.